So, Dark Souls was a pretty good game. Trying to comprehend the magnitude of influence the first Dark Souls had on video games as a medium is like trying to divide by zero. It fundamentally altered the entire medium, exerting an influence over the next decade and counting of both AAA and indie games. The Souls-like is a genre unto itself now, and one I enjoy as a regular part of my balanced gaming diet. What makes the idea of a Souls-like so interesting to me is seeing how different developers interpret From Software's formula, what aspects of said formula they live for their own projects, and how they reinterpret those in unique combinations with other influences. And it's because of that interest that I have a crap ton of these sitting in my Steam library begging me for attention, and even more on my wishlist speaking their sweet siren temptations. When sifting through ones that looked interesting, one kept catching my eye with its colorful yet grim art design. Tales of Iron from Manchester-based developer Oddbug Studio. In addition to being Souls adjacent, the game has some other clear inspirations, one of which being my favorite book series. Redwall, penned by English author Brian Jacques from 1986 until his death in 2011, was a huge part of my adolescence, and I'm a sucker for anything that apes its hallmarks. The developers cite it, along with other series in the same vein like Lord of the Rings and Mouse Guard, as inspiration, bringing their vision to life with a graphical style meant to resemble block printing. Adding in the once and future Geralt, Doug Cockle, as the game's narrator gives the experience a tinge of that Witcher grimness, though some of the things they managed to get him to say into a microphone are incredible.
The bard swore to write a heroic song of the pair's quest. Reggie wondered what would rhyme with zombie. Comrade, the little creature squeaked at Reggie. Reggie was almost 2 after all. Could a turtle reach such an old age?
Credit to Oddbug where it's due. The decision to make a game like this in the back half of the 2010s puts them up against some serious measuring sticks. By the time Tales of Iron came out, From Software had already iterated their own formula to near perfection with the Soul sequels, Sekiro, and Bloodborne, and the indie sphere had produced absolute titans like Hollow Knight and Blasphemous. It feels like that shadow was a known quantity to the developers, as several staples of the genre are either absent or significantly altered. Gone is the stamina bar that places a limiter on actions, there's no leveling system with separate stats, and the game's checkpoint and health recovery systems have unique quirks. The game even has different difficulty settings instead of just tossing the player in. I debated rocking the game's hard setting, Bloody Whiskers, because there's an achievement tied to it that I knew was going to drive my completionist ass nuts not having. However, I made the right choice playing on the default setting. It's ball-busting enough.
King Rattus gazed down upon his withered claws, barely able to hold the crown. He had little hope wielding a sword. So it was decided. The crown should pass to Whiskers new. Arise, young prince, for the kingdom needs a hero. And so, your tale begins.
Tales of Iron starts by spending a little bit of time walking you through the basics. We pilot Reggie here, who is incredibly cute, yes he is, yes he is, yes he is, and has one of the most endearingly goofy walk cycle animations I've ever seen. Reggie's going to square up with his brother Dennis to see who gets to wear their father's crown, old school trial by combat stuff. We scrap with a dummy to get a rundown of the melee combat, and it's here during the parry tutorial that I noticed something. The parry timing window in Tales of Iron is one of the tightest I've ever come across. Like, insect's bunghole tight. That's just a placeholder line, right? Parrying enemies lets Reggie hurl them back with his shield, which creates distance, but doesn't leave a big window for follow-ups. This will be important later. Outside in the arena we have our duel, and I'll be honest, this introductory boss lulled me into a false sense of security. I thought I had glimpsed the shape of the game's combat, already gotten my footing. We trounced Dennis and watched him scurry away. Nothing can ruin the mood.
He'd done it. He proved himself a worthy heir to his father's kingdom.
Kobe!
His dream was about to come apart.
One regicide later, we're in the deep end. Outside the arena, the frogs are still doing a fair bit of pillaging. We may not have much, but we have a sword, which means... I do no damage. Why do I do no damage? I mean, I do damage, but it takes me 6 good hits to take down a frog archer. 6 hits for an archer. The armored frog soldiers can withstand even more punishment. Meanwhile, Reggie can take about 2, maybe 3 hits before the tiny rodent Grim Reaper comes a-calling. I legitimately thought I'd accidentally started Bloody Whisker mode before going back to the footage I just recorded and seeing, nope, this is the standard difficulty. Oh, yeah, that's the stuff. We drive the frogs out of this building, where the residents are awfully casual about the amount of dead bodies, and then out of the town entirely.
This thug of a guard frog wasn't an easy kill, but it was a sweet one.
While scurrying off to Reggie Rescue's brother Chef, I made humble several more times and learned a few more things. You see this roll, this cute little tumble? It has no iframes. It's way better to use the dodge that sees you scurry in a direction. It sends you farther and seems to lock you into animation frames for less time. By this point, I've gotten one of each of the weapon types, a sword, an axe, and a spear, and I've decided to lean heavily on the charge light attack because it makes Reggie lunge forward into the strike. It's the same across all 3 weapons. In fact, your moveset is rather standardized no matter what you have on you. The only real marginal difference is the fact that the spear has reach that the stubbier melee weapons don't, and so I lean on it for a while.
Their leader, Lancelot, had never been bested in battle. He had a lance as lethal as it was legend, but he also had the only key.
I do get a kick out of the live musical accompaniment these two back here provide in most of the frog boss fights. We also pick up a bow that functions more as an additional attack. It auto-aims with projectiles that have some odd properties. Reggie seems to have difficulties accounting for gravity on shots that go laterally, but if the enemy it locks onto is above you, Reggie will bullseye it like he's Legolas. While all this is going on, I'm beginning to get a sense of the game's structure, which is less exploratory Dark Souls and more, well... This line from a little bit later in the adventure sums up the totality of Tales of Iron.
Reggie remembered a time when kings sent their subjects on errands, and not the other way around.
Reggie seems like the only rat around willing to put his tail on the line and get the things done that actually need to get done to restore the kingdom himself, which, ironically, actually makes him more worthy of being in charge than most other kingly types. We go to help out the Rangers, who have a lead on the Smith, Reggie's other brother, but are stalled by a wooden blockade. Oh, yeah. That'll do. This thing also works pretty darn good on shields, though I'm still riding the struggle bus when it comes to combat for the most part. Despite finding and equipping gear in an attempt to keep my defenses on par with the damage being dealt, the amount of punishment even basic enemies can dish out is bonkers. Healing is done by chugging from a flask of bug juice, which gave me Vietnam flashbacks to Boy Scouts when we used to make something called the same thing by dumping 4 varieties of Kool-Aid powder in one of those big orange coolers. Unlike in Dark Souls where your healing item refills whenever you park it by a bonfire, the juice flask can only be filled by going to a keg,
or by slicing open bugs in the field and draining their viscera into the container.
The ratio of healing to juice isn't all that great though, and this also means that if you're spending a lot of time in an area without any bugs around, you need to find a keg or get real good at dodging. The next frog boss has the most Star Wars ass name I've heard in a while, Blocky Magoo. I know this game. Big fella with a shield, use the new two-hander to knock him down, watch for a slow but powerful follow-up. Simple. This should be a piece of... Oh, you motherfucker!
The foul corpse of Blocky Magoo lay lifeless on the floor. He had croaked his last orders.
With the smith freed, it's time to start putting the kingdom back together piece by piece. We delve into the sewers to clear out the bug infestation, then go revisit the Magoo boss arena to do more of the same. Bit by bit, the map opens up. We spend even more time in the sewers, kill some more frogs, wonder why the hell Dennis gets to eat good while I'm running my tail off, help this lady by saving her... Why is that mosquito painted like a cow? I need to get the implications of this out of my head. I'll take something, anything, zombies even.
Undead.
Oh, for the love of... So yeah, it turns out there's something kinda sinister lurking down in the crypts beneath the castle. The zombie rats are less of a pain to fight than the frogs, namely because they go down quicker, but they pick through my health over the course of several encounters. I'm hurting for both health itself and healing, and there's no bugs to farm for juice down here. I choose to delve deeper, and then, right as I'm in midair above this jump, I realize how badly I've screwed myself. See this wall here? It's too high for me to make the jump to grab the ledge and pull myself up onto it to go backtrack. The only way forward is to continue pushing through the encounters down here. With little health, no healing, and enemies that are still chunking me for damage. I try every which way to wriggle out of this, throw myself at the encounter several times trying to ninja my way around the enemies, but the game's combat mechanics just aren't built for that. Then I try exploring, and... Okay. I try a different route and... Oh, come on! Yeah, I had to cheat a little to get out of this, sue me. You know, Bard Rat, I love the accompaniment, but I'd appreciate some help here.
How had these frogs ended up buried in this revered place? More of his father's secrets.
Back to the Busywork. The bulk of progress here is made by killing two really big bug bosses. I really wish I had more to talk about, but the next hour of footage I scrubbed through was me just running back and forth through the world killing bugs. I legit haven't seen a frog enemy in ages. Did they all just take a vacation, punch out, and say, we'll get to the rest of the invasion in the morning? Well, after fixing up the throne room, they punch back in and start causing trouble in the mines. We pulled Dennis out of the kitchen long enough to go deal with that as a duo.
Frogs were dealt with, and Reggie had felt no rumbling monster. But sighting the war chief had made Reggie realize they needed to prepare for an attack. The king was needed in the fort.
Unfortunately, another fork in the road awaits us. Down here in the depths, we make a new friend.
Comrade, the little creature squeaked at Reggie. What was it? Not a rat or mouse. It was armed, but seemed pleased to see him. Maybe it could help the king get home.
This adorable nugget is Jay, and he's a mole, packing some serious heat. I feel now is the time to mention that this game's art director, a guy named Martin Riemann, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, is from Eastern Europe. The design of the entire next area makes way more sense when you know this, as does this absolute banger Jay plays off a backpack speaker while you go explore with him. The Mole Society is far and away more advanced than the Rat one, as to be expected from a glorious workers' republic.
The guard moles refused to let Reggie pass. They were too busy arguing about what cake to bring to their captain's birthday. Caramelized whole grub or cheesecake?
Cheesecake, obviously. In order to progress, we have to get some gas for Jay's rail car. To do that, we need to get some cheesecake for these guys. To afford that, we have to go to the gladiator arena and beat up a bunch of pro wrestling homages in front of this a horrifying onlooker. These fights are brutal and expect you to understand the combat system in full. I don't.
This strange device was a blaster. Molecraft more deadly than most bows. Reggie wondered what the smith would think.
I still keep expecting enemies to flinch when I hit them, which is odd because we're 7 hours into this and they haven't yet, so why would they start now? I do choose to fight the gun-toting enemy second and get a piece for my troubles. It does good damage, but limits you to 8 bullets, and getting more costs an arm and a leg unless you use the ammunition refill buckets. Now that I think about it, I have to question the decision to make ammo buyable in the shops, costing resources, but also just freely available in these barrels. Sure, there's not that many in the game, but it doesn't take incredibly long to navigate, so why would you burn consumable currency refilling ammo when said refill can be gotten with just a couple minutes of backtracking? It's not like the game was light on that to begin with. We get the gas and head back topside, where the frogs are getting overtime pay and are on their way back. Jay agrees to hang with us because he's cool like that, and it's time to do battle with the pond scum once again. Dennis makes himself a big easy target and gets dragged off, and we're right on his tail. Yeah, just kidding, we have to go back to Mulvey at Russia and get our shit pushed in a little more. I got so tilted by this that I quit the game to take a break, but forgot to turn the recording software off, so it was left running for the next couple hours. During this time, I attended my weekly movie group and unintentionally recorded myself playing Legacy of the Duelist while Blue is the Warmest Color played in the background. And I really, really wish I could show the footage of me playing a children's card game while audio of an intimate scene between the two leads plays in the background because it's abjectly hilarious, but Papa YouTube will have my head if I do, so you'll have to trust me. Much as I've enjoyed Doug Cockle's narration, I'm starting to get tired of hearing him say,
Double trouble means double gold.
I get wombo comboed by these two another half dozen times before I finally slow it down, force myself to take my time, and stick them both with the pointy end enough times that they give up the ghost. The tilt is still real though, and I'm itching to wrap this up. Back to the keep, back to the catacombs, into the smog with the best buddy anyone could ask for. This Toad Shaman boss, pathetic, slow, hits like a foam dart. I have been tempered by the fires of the Colosseum, you greasy meatball, and then almost die in the next room to fall damage. A turtle helps us get to Frog Central, where Jay and Reggie get on some Army of Two shit and go to work. We go from wide open spaces outside to a cramped dungeon where the fighting grows more intense. The frogs here are the toughest specimens, amped up on some steroid that greens out their eyes. And it's not just the frogs, other critters have been exposed too, which takes me a second to realize because Jay just fucking caps a rat before Doug Cockle's narration is even finished. Holy shit. Communist moles don't play around with zombies, good to know. Round 2 with the shaman is so easy, I don't even have to chug from the juice.
The shaman's cruel experiments were over in a puff of foul green smoke.
I'm locked in. I'm ready to cross the finish line.
What was this evil twist on Molecraft? A grotesque monster of creaking gears and steam. The sight of it made Reggie freeze. But Jay's fury could not be held back. The sound of his small friend's body falling lifted the spell.
Wait, hold on. Did I miss something? What happened to Jay?
What was this evil twist on Molecraft? A grotesque monster of creaking gears and steam. The sight of it made Reggie freeze.
No. No, not Jay. Not my comrade. God damn it, Dennis, you better be prepared to do the same.
No, Reggie wouldn't believe it.
Alright, fair enough. Greenward is big, but he's just another frog in the end.
Fatality.
Dennis survives and the kingdom is saved. Tales of Iron has more if you're so inclined. 2 expansions came out, one adding an above-ground coliseum full of more optional bosses, and a second adding a new forest area full of squirrels with some new quests to do. As for me, walking Reggie back to the throne room, I realized I've had my fill. Tales of Iron wins incredibly hard in the aesthetic department, but personally, I found its combat didn't flow nearly as well as I've come to expect and enjoy from games of this genre, which ultimately is what's making me throw in the towel. I am glad I played it though, I'm glad it exists. Even though it's not for me, I think games like this with clear artistic direction and aesthetics shouldn't be overlooked. A sequel will be out by the time you're hearing this, so maybe they'll have sanded off the edges I didn't like and I'll be inclined to play it in the future. For now though, I'm just having fun watching Dennis acknowledge his better.
It was the start of a true golden age, free of the scourge of frog spawn. Working with the molefolk below, they built a new kingdom of steam and industry and wonder.
At least until the moles grew tired of being led by those who claimed divine providence and exploited them for their labor, giving nothing in return, and rose up in glorious revolution. Outside in the arena we have the duel, and I'll be honest, this introductory boss, give me boss.